Action! Activate!
What is going on? My name is Gazbot. This is Action Activate, and with me, as always,
it is I. It is the Big Dog. We are here to talk about things a little bit differently this week. We are not coming together as friends. We are clashing as both the Gen X and Millennials, as we are respectively sometimes.
And there might be some people who are jumping on, because typically we do a lot of Power Ranger stuff, so people might never have watched this before. So I'm Gazbot. This is Big Dog. We've been friends for years. And we bonded over a lot of stuff, Power Rangers, comic books, things like that. But there is an age difference. There is a generation.
Even though we look like we are within a year of each other, mostly due to my end. But
no, I have some harsh lighting on my face, blasting out all my wrinkles and imperfections. Yeah. But yeah, so we were talking about, we had finished a season of Power Rangers, and we got the idea of, hey, let's do Gen X versus Millennial. And well, do you want to kind of describe the basic concept for those that might not?
So what it is kind of like he said, there's a lot of stuff we've bonded over where it's like, oh, when you were growing up, did you like watching shows on Saturday mornings? Oh, yeah, I did. What did you watch? Oh, well, I watched Masters of the Universe and Transformers. Oh, well, I watched Power Rangers and X-Men, the animated series. Stuff like that, where it was very clear, you know, each segment in time had different things that we watched, right. And some things I watched and he didn't, and other things we both watched. And one thing we wanted to do was kind of start out with a topic. This week we're talking about horror shows that we remember watching growing up.
Spooky shows might be a better way to put it.
Yeah, because yours is less horror-y and more just sci-fi spooky-ish.
Yeah, but and the thing is, there is crossover, because you're like, I watched X-Men when I was a kid. I'm like, I watched X-Men when I was a teenager. So I did watch it, and we can bond over that. But like, it's like, what can't we bond over? So the idea was, we both chose a spooky show from our childhood, and then we each watched an episode.
Picked by the other.
Picked by the other, yes. We both watched. So I, being a Gen X person, I picked a show, honestly, it's probably obscure to even other Gen X people. It's called The Third Eye, and there's probably been shows called that since then. But this was on Nickelodeon when Nickelodeon was brand new and had a lot of weird stuff on it. Not scary, but like, where did this come from? You know, and so I did a little research, because I think it was between 1983 and 1984 that this was on the air, and then I don't think they did it anymore. And that was the one I chose. And then you chose.
I chose Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was a very big 90s show for Nickelodeon, even on its Saturday night Snick block, which was fun for those who remember it.
I remember Snick, and I am aware of Are You Afraid of the Dark. I don't know that I ever watched an episode of it, but when I watched this episode, I'm like, yeah, okay, the kids are on the campfire. It wasn't like, what am I seeing for the first time? But I was not of the age where I was watching it, is for sure.
If I remember correctly, I think Ryan Gosling was in an early season of it as one of the campfire kids, yeah.
Okay. So did they only put it on Snick, or was it at some point on during the day?
No, so I think what it was it had a specific time, and then when Snick came around, it was one of the primary things of like, watch this spooky show on Saturday nights.
For those that don't know, Saturday Night Nick was the idea. It would be like for older kids, but not yet Nick at Night, when they ran like classic sitcoms and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so yours was sort of a beloved show of your generation. Mine is a show that probably most people don't remember, but the reason I picked mine was because I was like, what other horror show or spooky show did I watch as a kid? And I'm like Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, but I was probably a little older, and that was old for me. Like, it wasn't specific.
Yeah, you caught that in syndication. It wasn't like, here's the new blah blah blah.
And the reason I chose this one, and the reason I chose the episode I did, because, and I kind of learned this when I was trying to find the links, because I haven't gone back to this since I was a kid. I chose the episode I did because it's sort of an anthology series, like Are You Afraid of the Dark? But Are You Afraid of the Dark seems to have like a through line of the kids at the campfire, but then every episode is completely different, so you can watch any in any order. I didn't realize that The Third Eye was an anthology series that apparently had like 5 or 6 different series from United Kingdom and New Zealand. and each one of those had like 8 episodes. It has like a very early Doctor Who vibe. And so I would catch parts of episodes and be like, what's happening? And I thought part of that was I was a kid. No, part of it was it would like be part 5 of a different show that I watched last week that was part 3. And this one specifically, I remember there's a scene with the cop coming in the house that terrified me. Like I had to leave the room. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, that's like the number one memory I have of this show. So that's the one I should pick. And I thought about explaining to you like how you're coming in the middle of the story. I'm like, no, let him have the experience I had.
Yeah, that we're going to start with yours. That made very little sense. I'm still confused by a lot of plot points of it, but I do agree that one of the highlights was that, you know, middle to end section where we're going to jump around a lot, by the way, just a heads up. So the third eye, I'm going to explain it from my point of view, having never watched it, is a very Twilight Zone, Doctor Who-y kind of thing. In this episode, we are thrown into these 2 kids with this old man mentor who happens to be an alien that came in, but a lot of it's not really explained, and they have these magic rocks they need to use, but they're hard to use. And then there's these weird guys in a car that like we don't know what their deal is pretty much the entire time. I still don't understand what their deal is. And somebody tries to steal the rocks, and they're a shape-shifting guy who poses as a policeman, and they're kind of like a sea creature, but not, and they're goofy, and the effects were incredibly bad. And I don't know why some people have powers and the others don't. We don't really explain it. And these rocks are magic, and you could get hit by a car and be drowning in the ocean and live.
That's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate. I actually gleaned more meaning than you. Did you watch it on like 2x speed as you're wont to do?
No. I actually, I watched it at regular speed. I was multitasking a little bit, but not enough where I was like, I'd look away and look back and be like, what's going on? Like, it's just a very confusing place to be dropped in.
Right. Well, I wouldn't blame you if you were watching on 2x, because it is very slow and boring. And I feel like probably how I watched it, and I was trying to figure out how old I was, and I feel like I was like 7 or maybe 8. So I was pretty young when I was watching these, which is why they terrified me so much. And I imagine I was probably playing with toys while I was watching stuff and barely paying attention to the human stuff until a laser blast or a monster showed up, and then be like, oh, why am I watching this? You know, like, because that was my experience. But watching it as an adult, I followed it perfectly. Now, part of that is I watched part of another episode I was trying to find this exact episode. So I kind of got the idea that this old man, he's an alien. And so that's why he survived. They're humans that have a connection to these alien rocks, but he is an alien that came to Earth that used to have a partner. His partner died. And they're trying to stop.
We learned that in the episode that he.
Well, you said, how did he survive? And I'm saying.
Well, no. How did he survive later? But also he explains that like the connection has to be from twins, and 200 years ago he used twins, but those twins died. Well, and we didn't fully get that story either.
I actually, in my notes, I put that like, we get this story where he's like, the last 2 kids I trained, one of them died. That's pretty harsh. And then he's like, I will protect you no matter what. The next scene, he gets hit by a car and seems to die. He's like, ah!
He does the best death cry.
Just linger on his dead body. He does come back later, but as a kid, you wouldn't know that. And then later, they're trying to, the monsters are trying to take or kill one of these kids because the 2 of them together are powerful. And the girl is hurt. And you see a coffin for a child being loaded into a car. And then it's revealed it was like a ruse. But like all of this stuff, I'm like, I was not wrong to find this scary as a kid.
Yeah.
Because as cheesy as it is, you know, when you're 7 or 8, and also this was the 80s, so it wasn't that far off from things I'd seen.
Yeah.
It was scary. And I think the fact that it was like from New Zealand, they had accents and it had like a weird production value, that added to the scary for me. Because I didn't, as a kid, I wasn't like, oh, this was filmed a couple of years ago in a different country. I'm like, it's just weird. I don't know why. Like,
also when the attack happens later, they're like, they only need one of us. And the brother fully goes into self-sacrifice. I'm like, oh man. He's like, if you're going to kill somebody, take me. I'm like, you're like 8, dude. What's going on?
Yeah. He knew he wasn't as strong with the stone as she was, but
it's true. We established that early.
I think if I watched these in order and maybe was like a year or 2 older, I would have loved them. Because it's very like Doctor Who, very like superhero kids that are like touched by aliens. But when I watched it out of context, a little bit younger, I'm like,
you could show his actual death. There is 0 chance you're getting copyright.
You're absolutely right. Okay, here we go. And look how long they linger on the body. And then like,
and then later you see him like washed up on the shore.
They're right there.
Yeah. Well, they come back to him later. I still don't fully understand how he lit. Yeah, because they show the water like actually hitting him. Where I'm like, he drowned. I don't
recall that. I don't.
You'll see.
I think you're mistaken.
You'll see. You'll see.
Okay. Well, the parents leave, and this is the part I remember as a kid being terrified of, where and this is to jump ahead a little bit to Are You Afraid of the Dark? That would have scared me too, but that was sort of a standard. There's a horrifying monster that's scary, but as a kid, and I was a scaredy cat as a kid. I would try to find ways to not be scared of stuff. And I would be like, well, I'm not a teenager that's going to break into a pool and I'm not going to do bad things that'll put myself in this bad situation. These are good kids staying home. And a police officer who you should trust tries to break into their house. And when they say no, he turns into slime. I'm like, that could happen to me right now. That's way more terrifying.
Yeah. That bowl cut's protecting nobody. See,
you're right.
He was washed up. Boom.
You're absolutely. Wait, is this to show him getting up?
No, this is just him having water seemingly go in his lungs, his alien lungs.
Is that all this scene is? It's so weird.
Yeah, it's just showing that he's dead. There's no way he's coming back.
Yeah, again, they didn't explain it fully, but I just assume he's an alien that hurt him but didn't kill him the way it would kill us. Because they later have a line where he takes the appearance of a human.
Yeah.
He's not actually, that's not his form.
Super creepy cop guy is creepy. Yeah, it's like, can we come in? It's like, nope, no, you can't.
And then he very quickly is like, here, I'll play.
You don't even need to know what he's saying.
So he gets to start sliming in. And then his face is all drippy. I'm like, why is it drippy?
Yeah. Because they didn't do enough effects to make him look like a monster. They just made him look really creepy and gross.
That scared me still, because again, it was that sort of like, oh, it could be anybody. And I think the idea is, you were saying, the connection to everybody, the people in the car, him, and the sea creature slime, they're all the same race. It's just like different, they're trying to impersonate humans and they stink at it. And this is what they do. And then they have their laser power and they blast them away. And then I like that the older kids are like, we'll help you, and just smash him with a guitar.
Oh yeah, dude. Awesome. Big fan.
Oh, and then, okay, so then Obi-Wan comes back.
Yeah, Homeboy's back. Does, whatever he's going to do. A little one of those things.
And you're right. This does have more of a sci-fi feel. One of the things I read in the Wikipedia is that all of the series that they bought for this involved people having psychic abilities. That's why they called it the third eye. So even though they're different, they all had that. And apparently they got them for like no money, which is the beginning of Nickelodeon. They had a lot of English language foreign films, or ones that they could dub easily, like a cartoon.
Yeah.
And so they must have just been like, hey, I'll give you $100 for this show. We're going to put it in. And
they're still, he uses weird alien powers to heal her arm because her arm got grabbed by the slime guy.
Yeah. And he wipes everyone's memory like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. Again, some of it you're just like, sure. And then it keeps going. Weird guys.
I love the actors are all like,
everybody has like the most heinous underbite.
You know what it reminds me of? Men in Black, when he has the Egger suit on, like when he's the roach trying to pretend to be a human. It kind of reminds me of that.
Honestly, it looks like Hanna-Barbera villains, but if they were made real.
Yes, yeah.
Like it looks like all the bad guys from like Yogi Bear, where she's like, "Rrr."
Oh, here's the coffin, the child's coffin.
Yeah. Which again, he's like, what's going on?
And he says, and I think that is, like I said, what made it so scary to me. It was just weird. Like I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it's just like, I shouldn't be seeing this. Like,
yeah, the hearse drives away. Those guys look weird, and then it's over.
Yeah. So let me put
what a name, Mr. Wilberforce.
Mr. Wilberforce. So you kind of already said your thoughts, but what are your thoughts?
I preferred Are You Afraid of the Dark? I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and just taking the effects part out of it, just story-wise, obviously that one for Are You Afraid of the Dark is a one and done, and was more cohesive. This one left me thoroughly confused. It wasn't bad, but I was just like,
do you think it's a case where if you watch the other episodes it would make more sense, or do you like it'll never make sense?
No, it would make more sense with other episodes. It's just like this one, I feel like certain things were definitely assumed, or they need a lot of heavy backstory to make sense. Right. And then the things they explained, like in the beginning, I was like, okay, this feels like it's in a story, but they're doing a good job explaining these stones and like this guy's an alien and he needs twins, blah blah. And the rest of the episode, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all to me.
It did get kind of wacky. Like I said with all our Power Rangers reviews, like it wasn't boring. Well, it was boring in the beginning, but once it started getting wacky, then it was like from the time that cop shows up till the end, I was not bored.
No, I enjoyed that better than some episodes of Mystic Force that we recently reviewed.
Well, I mean, me too, but I have sentimental attachment, so I'm allowed to say that. One other piece of trivia I'll put in: the narrator, when he's like, "Some people have a third eye," that's Don LaFontaine. Before he became as famous as he is, the in a world that guy did the voiceover for a third.
Sounded very familiar.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I had to look it up, but yeah. And then this was based on a book. Actually, this was Under the Mountain. And then later there was a remake. So I guess there's like probably a fan base for this in New Zealand, not so much in America, but like kids in New Zealand are like, oh, remember that book? Remember that show? And like so I don't think I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing. But it did make me interested to maybe watch like a YouTube video like about more like something. I don't know.
So that's one thing we didn't discuss that we're going to establish right now. There's two kind of ratings that we're going to give the shows we talk about. One, if we liked it or didn't like it, very rough rating. And two, did this sample, either both rehashed or brand new, make us want to go back and watch more?
I want a third one.
Sure.
Did we like it or not like it? Would the sample make us want to go watch more? Would we have liked it as a kid? Because it's possible, like I don't like it now, but as a kid, I would have liked,
That seems like a B, like a part B of like the like it or didn't like it. So as a kid, I think I would have watched it. Liked is like a very middle ground because I don't know how confused I would have been.
Right.
Now I liked it okay. I'm not going to go back and watch it though.
Yeah. I did watch it as a kid, but only kind of, and I don't think, having watched it more, I don't think I would have, again, at that age, watched it more. But when I was a little bit older, I did like old Doctor Who reruns, and that's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
This makes me interested. I'm not probably going to go back and watch it, but I am interested in like the history more. Like I'm probably going to read some Wikipedia articles and like just figure out like why was this made? What are the other shows like that? The behind the scenes interests me more than the actual show. And if anything, it makes me want to go watch some like Tom Baker Doctor Who because it's a similar level, but at least it's Doctor Who,
Yeah, exactly. Switching gears, rolling into the 90s, we have Are You Afraid of the Dark? So this is, as we mentioned, an anthology horror show that was on Nickelodeon in the 90s. What I did to pick...
How old you were when this was on?
Yeah, I was. So when it like first came on, because this is 5 seasons long, when it first came on, I was probably like 4 or 5-ish. When I watched it, what I can recall, I was probably like 7 or 8. And this was a show
for both of our shows.
Here's the thing, though. When I was a kid, I maybe watched 2 episodes of this show.
Was this one of the episodes you watched?
No, it was not. One of them, I vaguely remember where it was like it was somebody stuck in a dream, and like the end of the episode was them like being trapped in the dream. But I don't remember which one it was. I just remember like most of these and Goosebumps, which we didn't choose or which I didn't choose for this. I chose this instead to keep it Nickelodeon. Most of them like just off of what? No, Goosebumps was Fox. This was Nickelodeon.
Oh, I thought it was both. I thought like it started on one. Okay.
So for this, like even just the previews, like I was freaked out. Like I was a scaredy cat kid. So like the fact that I watched any of this as a kid was like, and there were multiple times I remember I'd like start an episode and then it'd be like 2 minutes into the story. I'm like, nope, switch it to Disney Channel. So we have a
similar experience with the shows of like not really wanting to watch them and running out of the room. And like, so they both did a good job scaring us, which is their job, but it should have scared us. I guess because it was for older kids, because it's supposed to scare you, but not so much you don't watch the whole show. And
for this,
at this point, have you seen all or most, or have you only seen 2 or 3 like from when you were a kid?
Less than 10 total.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. But what I will say, I Googled pretty much people's favorite episodes. This one on a subreddit was like picked by at least 5 people. So I went with it, and I will say I was very pleasantly surprised at how like much this held up as just like a good piece of content.
I generally agree. And this is, mine is super dated too. So it's not like I'm like, but it feels it feels of the 90s, but mine feels like who made this and why, whereas yours feels like, oh, this is from the 90s. It has almost kind of a Power Rangers production quality to a lot of the scenes in the school.
For the production, I agree. I think just as a cohesive story, it was good. Like there were certain parts that like were kind of that general like kid show dumbed down, but the core of it I felt like was pretty good. One thing to keep in mind, this is from season 5, so their core group of kids who tell the ghost stories around the fire was pretty consistent. They clearly had somebody leave from season 4 that they need to replace.
I was going to ask, how often did these kids change? Because like
I feel like every mid-season or like every season or so, some would change. But they did a great job, like of us going in being like, oh, I guess a kid left and they need a new kid. Cool.
Yeah, I wasn't lost. I completely got it. The only thing I didn't get is what was wrong with this kid, because it's like they're like, oh, he wants to join the club, and he immediately kisses this girl who hates his guts. Like that seemed aggressive. And then like he took some other girl's flannel shirt and put it on a wet log, and he's like, it's wet. And then later he's like eating some weird paste out of a bat. So I'm like, this kid's the kind of a gross jerk. Like,
yeah, he's just a goofy guy. But he has to tell a story to try to get accepted into the group, and he tells a really good ghost story. So each kid, whoever is telling the story, is like a pseudo narrator for the actual plot of the episode. So we hear him occasionally in this episode, but the thing I like is we don't hear him the whole time. Sometimes you just get to have the story play out, and then occasionally he'll chime in, which I appreciated as I watched, of like, cool, I don't have to hear this goofy kid who eats paste the whole time.
I agree, especially because I didn't even think about it. Like I at no point was like, I wish this kid, like it just was seamless. Like I agree with that. One thing I thought was worth noting about this entire episode, including the catchphrase, which I guess they say submitted for the approval of the Midnight Club or whatever, like their catchphrases. That's super close to what Rod Serling used to say in the Twilight Zone, like submitted for your approval. I'm sure that was on purpose. This episode was fairly cohesive. As an adult, I had some quibbles, like, well, you dissolve the water, but the evil spirit's still there, like things like that, but fine. It made a lot more sense than mine. And probably a kid from today could watch this and maybe enjoy it, whereas I don't think anybody's enjoying The Third Eye, except for an adult, like in that way, no kid's gonna. But, and I'm looking at it with modern adult eyes. But even at that time, it works, but it works by doing every horror cliche you can. It was so like, oh, here's shots underwater like Jaws, and here's, oh, the teenagers aren't paying attention, and so the kid got hurt, and then oh, it was a fake jump scare that was the friend, but now the real attack, and like, so it was just, I wrote down like Jaws, the Friday the 13th, like, and not, it's a kid show, so you're not going to be reinventing the horror wheel every week, but it was funny how I'm like, this works, but most of this is not original.
I felt like the show was very G and PG up until the monster showed up. I'm like, that is a horrifying monster.
I wrote horrifying. I think I let me see what. I said terrifying, but still, it was like, whoa.
If I saw this as a child, I would be still talking about it to this day.
Yes, it was as scary as like the monsters in Creepshow or something like that. Like it's like they took a monster from Tales from the Dark Side and just put him in this show. It was very horrifying.
One thing that I think is funny, and I didn't check the IMDb for sure, but I think the drowning kid is Jay Baruchel.
I don't know who that is.
He was in This Is the End. He was in Knocked Up. He was in She's Out of My League, the guy with the glasses.
I've only seen one of those 3 movies.
Okay. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. If you know I'm right, tell me in the comments, please.
Here's Billy from the Power Rangers.
nerdy kid.
And it was obvious, like they're setting up all this chemistry stuff. I'm like, oh, that's going to pay off later, and it did, and that's fine.
I did appreciate that it did pay off, though.
I appreciate that it paid off. I also thought like that they set it up so that the girl in pink was sort of like kind of being nice to him, maybe liked him, and the orange shirt girl was like not interested, and yet the two of them ended up together, which I did not expect.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Backing up 1 second, when their kids are around the campfire, it looks like they throw like flash powder or something on it to make it blast. Is that supposed to be magic? Do they ever explain that? Is that
no? I think it's just a dramatic effect thing. Nobody, as far as I can remember, around the campfire have any special abilities. They just tell stories to each other.
Okay.
In the middle of a field when their parents don't ask where they are.
Right. That nobody knows where they are because you have to put a bag on their head.
Yeah.
Did you know that the janitor was the old lifeguard?
Not until the end.
Me neither. I also the comprehension that I had that you didn't have for Third Eye, I lacked here because I thought that first scene was present day and there was a pool in the school and that just happened. And then all this stuff's going on. And then they find like he's like, look, there's a door with a pool. And I still wasn't thinking like, oh, that was the pool from where I'm like, oh, because I know it's sci-fi. I'm like, is this a portal in time to the old?
You missed
pool?
it. It said 1954 in the beginning of that scene.
I absolutely missed it. Yeah. I must have looked down or sneezed or something because I figured it out eventually, but I was like, oh, that they don't even have a pool. Oh, that was the past. And
my reverse effect was this scene. I was like, is this present day or is this still in the 50s? And I'm like, no, it's definitely present day. Those are 90s kids.
Yeah. I do. Up to this, similar to a Third Eye, I think as a kid, I would have found this boring. All of this would be boring until they find the secret door over here, which again, originally knowing that it's a sci-fi show or a horror show, I literally thought, and what the kid said too, the kid at the campfire, he tricked me because he's like, oh, you want me to be different. You know, you don't like the way I am, but sometimes if you change things, there can be unintended consequences. I'm like, that's time travel. That's time travel. And so then they go in here and it's this old, it's an old pool. And my stupid, like, overthinking, I wasn't thinking that's an old pool. I'm like, oh, they found a portal back to the 50s and they're going to change something and come back and it's going to be wild because he said, don't. So what he said, how did that tie into the story at all? I feel like it didn't.
Yeah, because this was clearly blocked off because a kid died. They don't know that a kid died. So yeah,
okay.
them bringing it up and reopening it is them having unintended consequences.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I was thinking it'd be a lot more dramatic.
You're like, definitely wasn't a portal. Not interested.
Yeah. But then this happened. I saw him. I'm like, what's he doing in there? And it was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And again, as a kid, I would have been like, I wouldn't have left the room, but I'd been like, oh boy, that's not normal. Agreed.
Even that, I was like, that was a lot creepier than it should have been for just like random water. But yeah, this whole scene, I was just kind of anxiously waiting for something bad to happen, and then they do a lot of good fake outs, which is good.
Yeah.
And I think that point onward, because how many minutes in were we? 5?
Right now we're it was about 9 minutes, that scene you were just talking about right there.
Okay. So into the story itself, we're, let's say, 6 minutes in, because there was the whole campfire intro part, the 8 time. So I think 5 minutes of fluff for a 20-minute story was reasonable.
Oh, it's totally the pacing was fine. I know as a kid and even as an adult, I'm like, they're talking about science and maybe they're gonna date. Who cares? You know, like I'm not saying the pacing is actually fine throughout the whole thing. I just as a kid, I know because I watched other shows like this that I would be bored until something exciting happened, and maybe it was so exciting I got scared.
Yeah, that's fair. Here we see them talking again. Really like how much disdain she has for him to get to where we all end up. This part at first I was a little surprised, but I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, where she's going to teach him how to swim because he hates water and is afraid of it, and I like completely different reasons. Even though they ended up together, I liked that, like, it made you think, like, how about a date or a kiss or whatever, but it's like, no, teach me to swim, please. Well, he I think hits on her a little bit, and she's like, absolutely not, you're a big nerd. Right, but in the moment, she's like, what do you get out of it? And he went, and then it's like swimming. I liked the raft for, at first I was like, is this going to be dumb slapstick? But it actually made really good sense for this scene. Yes. Yeah. And I also, going back to me not putting things together with the time, when he was talking about getting pulled under, he said it happened at like a lake or something. I thought, oh, he's the kid from the beginning, which made me again not think the janitor because that age didn't. So like one crucial plot point ruined your viewing. Not seeing that date, maybe, you know, like it didn't ruin it, but I definitely kept having theories that made no sense if I had seen that. Oh my God, too funny. I did. Oh, that was another thing. That the pool, I'm like, was the pool built on a cemetery? Was built on a cemetery. Like, oh yeah, okay, that's another check. There we go. Poltergeist, Pet Cemetery, whatever. Yeah, and then I started thinking, was this a flashback? And that other stuff happened. Like, yeah, my timeline. I can't believe how not seeing the 1954, how much that threw off everything. Everything. In the episode. That explains the music too, because I had a note when the lifeguard's like, hey, let's hang out. It's like, I'm like, is this like porno music? Why are they playing that? But it's like, oh, it was supposed to be 50s music, so that makes more sense. His entire review has an asterisk on it.
It does. It does. Well, nothing I'm saying though is making me be like, and therefore this was terrible. You know what I mean? I'm not docking points for it or anything. And this is where her friend fakes her out. And it's weird because like the friend, like I guess I don't know how much she liked the nerdy guy, but she definitely didn't like that he was spending time with her friend. Like she either was jealous because she liked him or just wanted to be the one he liked.
Yeah, that part I was like, oh yeah, she doesn't like it. I'm like, oh, wait, these roles are reversed.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they actually do have an incident with the monster thing. She pulls him back, and then I do like how their plan was, well, he can't get us in the boat, so we'll stay in the boat. And then I love that it's like, no, I'm going to flip over your boat.
Yeah, there was a lot of logic to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
When he got pulled in, she said, but there's nothing in here. It's like, yeah, maybe you're right. And there's a boom, but it's like, oh, no, there's something.
Yeah. I just love how like little things we've complained about for Power Rangers mostly were easily explained away in a show that came out before most of the Power Rangers seasons we've reviewed.
Yeah. This guy reminded me of Owen Wilson as Mobius in Loki.
A little bit.
Like
it looks like Owen Wilson mashed with John Turturro.
I can see that now that you say it. Yeah. I was thinking more just the type, like his style. But yeah, John Turturro's in there too. You're right.
Yeah.
So this is where he makes the big reveal that was in the 50s that happened. And he's the lifeguard, which for you was one part of the reveal, but for me was a much bigger reveal.
Yeah. Also, a thing I want to note, because we talk about it mostly for Power Rangers, is he's like, that child in the first minute of the show drowned.
Yes.
Gone.
Well, both, not destroyed, not lost, both of our shows definitely said kids died. They definitely were like, yeah, kids died. That happened. So. Yeah.
90s. It was a different time, apparently.
Well, and so was the 80s, apparently.
Yeah. But yeah, so he, feels guilt. We decide science is the way to win, and spoiler alert, it is.
I also like that they talk about how it's an acidic, like the spirit makes the water acidic, and so they're going to add the methyl orange, which makes it look like reddish or whatever. But like, oh, I guess if they pull like the ghost is red because of what they used, which is a good way to explain it, because it looks like it's just this bloody monster. It's like, why? But whatever, that's the color they made it. It wasn't that color, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, every part about it, just little things that made sense.
What doesn't make sense is how he's like scared of water. He knows there's a monster in there, and he's leaning way over so he could grab him.
We'll just chalk that up to being dumb. This is a horrendous, actual like PG-13 R-rated movie monster.
Yeah, it does not belong in this show. It is way too terrifying,
and its actions are terrifying too.
Yeah, because it doesn't just chase them. It's like, oh, I could like go through pipes and like teleport essentially because he's made of water. The server is made of water.
Yeah, everything about this reminded me of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Supernatural, where I'm like, this is a legitimate threat.
Yeah, no, for real. And then the adult that was helping them, he went into shock. So now it's like, oh, it's just this kid
with his arms crossed.
Yeah, I'm in shock. So she remembers that the magnetite or whatever it was called.
Oh yeah,
will make it explode. And I knew that was going to come into play. But even then, and again, this is an adult. I was thinking like, if it's an evil spirit that's animating the water, that might stop the golem that it created for that moment, but it doesn't get rid of the evil spirit. And this is where, again, I'm thinking of like Nightmare on Elm Street or Freddy or
Friday the 13th or whatever. Yeah.
Where like at the end of it, they defeat them, but clearly they're coming back. And that's how I felt at the end of this, where they're like, it's all good. I'm like, but is it like, I kept waiting for like,
you wanted for a little gurgle.
Yes, I did.
No, I like how it got kind of wrapped. This plot point was weird where he like throws it in. He's like, you can't touch it or you'll get burned. She's like, I'm going to dive in the water and grab it with my bare hands.
Well, it was sealed. I took it. I thought he overreacted. Like she was going to open it and he's like, you're going to burn your hands. And then he didn't mean to knock it in the pool. And then she's just brave. And she's like, well, we got to get it out of the pool.
Maybe you're right.
I found it more convenient that there were gloves right there.
I feel like they brought them. Since they brought all those, he probably was smart enough to bring gloves. That's how I took it.
Maybe. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. And him jumping in was I didn't feel like it was the dumbest thing ever. It was kind of necessary and nobody did anything where I'm like, why the heck would they do that? Like everything felt natural.
Yeah, except, well, I mean, Charlie woke up out of his shock coma just in time to save him, which is a little convenient. But yeah, and this is where he's like, blah, blah, blah. I also thought that was going to be more dramatic, where he'd like actually explode or smoke a little bit more, based on what they kept saying.
Yeah, facts.
It was still pretty good. That's pretty hard. Even when he's dying, that's horrifying. It's a kid's show.
Yeah. Again, like solid, really good stuff.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm free after all these years." And then it looks like they're in the pool reading, and they make it clear that they're a couple. And she jumps in the water, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not much for that." Yeah. And then back to the storytellers.
Dumb B plot of like, "Hey, you're a weird kid. You got to tell us another good ghost story."
He goes into somebody's bag, looks like a purse maybe, finds some white stuff. And
I think that's the powder they throw.
That makes sense, because I'm like, who just has powder in a bag? Okay, so he's just eating some kind of explosive. This
that makes it so much worse.
Yeah,
I officially don't want this kid in the crew, even though he's probably going to join the crew.
Yeah, well, they say he's not in right away, but they'll give him a few more trial membership tries or whatever.
Bandana Girl, I'm with you. I don't think this guy is a good fit.
He's a mess.
And then they they're like, you have to get a bag over your head again, and can't learn about our secret cornfield fireplace.
He's in the bag, like, I don't mind being in a bag.
Yeah. So, you first time watching this, you do the 3-point review.
I liked it. It's kind of what I expected, with the exception that monster was horrifying. If that monster was a little less horrifying, other than that, it's like almost exactly what I expected. I don't have any interest in going back and watching it again, unless it was for a reason like this, or you told me, you got to watch this one episode. But generally speaking, I'd rather go watch Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, something, more for adults. Would I have liked it as a kid? I think no. I think I would have liked it less than The Third Eye. And again, in a similar way where like I'd kind of be watching it scared, but I think the sci-fi element of A Third Eye, I always liked sci-fi as a kid. So it's like, it's scary, but they have powers. They're kind of superheroes. It's kind of sci-fi. There's aliens. So that intrigued me a little more than just this, where it's just like, no, it's just bad monsters coming to get you, I probably would have watched it occasionally, but I definitely would not have been like a fan of it.
Yeah.
So do I think it's a good show objectively? Yeah, it's a pretty good show. Do I want to watch it anymore now? No. Would I have watched it as a kid? Maybe, but probably not.
I really enjoyed this episode because my expectations weren't super high and they were very well exceeded. Also, I kind of pitted this in terms of how we review Power Rangers, where because it's meant for kids, we kind of cut slack in certain places, but certain things that I've been complaining about during all of Mystic Force weren't issues in this one random 90 Horrors Kid episode. So like,
I mean, well, there's a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to go into, but yeah.
But with the review system, enjoyed it. If I watched it as a kid, I would be traumatized. I probably between the two would have liked this more, but would have watched it in the hopes of not being scared. But The Third Eye, I would have been consistent with, like, I probably wouldn't be as scared if I watched it more regularly. And that was the safer option. I do actually kind of want to watch some random episodes if I, think about it, for Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, it was cool. I'll check out some other ones, because that was the whole thing. Is I remember the bits I'd seen, I thought the show was cool, but I was definitely too scared. And I'm like, well, I could just watch these now. So
great. All right. Well, I think that was fun. And we'll get back to Power Rangers stuff eventually, but we're probably going to do another one of these. Like, I don't know how we're going to schedule this, but I think the next thing we're going to do is going to be another one of these, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
If you have suggestions, throw them below. But the idea is, don't say like, a kid's sports show and a kid's adventure cartoon. We want it to be ones that sort of match up thematically, which is why we both chose a kid's kind of horror anthology show.
Yeah.
We had talked about a few different things. We knew we were doing this one first, and I don't think we know what we're doing next time. So
we'll have to figure it out. But if you enjoyed this series, let us know. If you enjoy either of the shows, let us know if you have others in the same realm like Goosebumps or Twilight Zone or anything. Let us know as well. If you want us to keep doing reviews like this, definitely let us know, because that will let us know the motivation we put into doing this review series. But until next time, I am the Big Dog.
Oh!
And to the millennial power, I guess. I don't know.
What am I supposed to say? Hose water and bikes and hose water? I forget what the Gen X thing people say all the time now is.
I don't know.
Neglect and hose water. Neglect and hose water.
Not a boomer. I don't know.
Yeah, not a boomer. All right, bye. Hello.
Do we even need end credits for this? I mean,
no.
We kind of put it all out there.
All right. You don't get end credits.